Greetings from Honolulu. I'm in Hawaii with Hamilton right now, and though we are a couple of days into 2023, I think we're still within the acceptable period of time when we can still talk about the music that we listened to last year. At least I hope we are, because that's all I'm going to talk about today. I know it's been a minute, and I haven't been staying abreast of I haven't been staying a titty of all like new releases every month and all that, but obviously I listen to music all the time. So I just wanted to share 10 albums that last year in 2022 that I either, found and then listened to really intensely for a period of time and just like really needed at that time, or that I like just kind of kept coming back to throughout the year, kept needing them to like hit a certain spot in my brain, I guess. And these are in no particular order of importance or chronology or favorites or anything like that. Not all of them came out this year. Some of them did, many of them did not. Many of them have been around for decades, but for some reason I just listened to them and kept listening to them a lot this last year. So one of my faves ever since I first found... This is going to be a video with a little bit of background noise because you can't always control that when you're staying in an Airbnb. So you might hear some bird sounds, some moped sounds, the sounds of Hawaii. So it's like you're right here with me. Really it's just an all-inclusive experience. Fiona Apple's When the Pawn Hits the Conflicts, etc., etc., etc. It's a long-ass title. You know what I'm talking about. This album by Fiona Apple has been one of my faves since I discovered it just only maybe like 2 years ago. I was late to the party. But it's one of my favorites, especially when she sounds kind of angry, which she's great at sounding angry and writing beautiful songs. So a couple of my favorites on this one are Paper Bag, which really resonated with me a lot this year, and The Way Things Are, which also resonated with me a lot this year. Another one I listened to a lot, especially really intensely this past summer, was Janelle Monáe's The Electric Lady. Again, not a new release, but for whatever reason, I just really got into it this last summer. If you're familiar with Janelle Monáe, she tends to have this sort of like overarching concept in some of her albums, in I think all of her albums, really. I really appreciate kind of the addition of a loose narrative into her albums, and I absolutely just kept re-listening to Queen, which transitions right into Electric Lady on this album. Just came back to it over and over and over again, and it was just like amazing. Omara Portuondo, if you don't know her, is the only woman in Buena Vista Social Club, and her album, just titled Buena Vista Social Club Presents Omara Portuondo, is one that I listened to a lot this year, sort of as part of the Buena Vista Social Club like rabbit hole that I went down. And I love this album. There are a lot of like string arrangements on it, very lush, very beautiful, and obviously I'm a sucker for strings. So two of my favorite tracks on here were Canto Lo Sentimental and El Hombre Que Yo Ame. I just thought I'd butcher those for you. Another album that I listened to a lot later in the year was Stephen Page's Excelsior. I think it came out in September, and I got to hear some of Stephen Page's music from Who Tour when his trio was opening for The Who, and then I got to listen to them live again up in Milwaukee, and it was amazing. And I bought his album and just listened to it on repeat, the old-fashioned way on a CD in my car. And I love how he uses cello in a really featured way, not just like, oh, here's a little bit of like extra color, extra texture, but it really acts as kind of like a bass instrument, and while also having like melodic function. Anyway, it's an album that I loved. Two of my favorite tracks were How Much Is Enough and Safe. Another album I kept coming back to, also not a new release, Moonchild's Voyager. It's one of those where I came back from the show a lot and would listen to it. It was great, like, de-stressing music. It's great de-stressing music, and probably my two favorite tracks, although it's hard to pick, were Cure and The List. Angel Olsen's Big Time was another one that I listened to a lot and like really intensely for a while after it came out. It did come out in 2022. This is another one where it's hard to pick a couple favorite tracks, but I would say Big Time, the title track, was one that surprisingly I liked a lot. And Chasing the Sun is one that you can listen to if you just kind of want to like weep. Mood Valiant by Hiatus Coyote was, I knew of Hiatus Coyote for a long time, but hadn't really like gone down a rabbit hole. And then I discovered this album, Mood Valiant, and just, it's so, on a couple of tracks, just the arrangements are so just the most and very lush, very just built up. I love the strings, especially on Get Sun. And then for some reason, all the words we don't say right after that just like feels really right where it is. So I love those two tracks a lot. Alex Isley and Jack Dyne's Marigold was one that I discovered way late in the year, not a new release at all. I think Alex Isley sort of popped up on my radar because I was listening to Moonchild so much. And that's been another one that I've really loved listening to like late at night when I'm trying to wind down. Not that it's at all like, I don't want to say it's relaxing music, because I think sometimes people translate that to boring, and it's not boring at all. It's just like hits a certain spot in my brain that I needed to hit late at night when I don't want to be stressed out. So I've really been loving, I think that might technically be an EP. Two of my favorite tracks probably are Love Again and then 105 right at the end. Another absolutely not new release, but one that I listened to a lot, especially early in the year, but I did come back to it a lot. Shaka Khan's Shaka came out, sometime in the 70s. I don't remember exactly when. I want to say 76, but I don't know that for sure. It's an album that's worth listening to all of many times. Love Has Fallen on Me is one that I kept listening to, and also Sleep on It was one that sort of took me by surprise. And then of course, last but not least, Carole King, Tapestry was one that I listened to a lot, sort of like as self-imposed homework a little bit, because I was arranging the whole album and covering it. But it remains my favorite, one of my favorite albums of all time, and I think a lot of people's. It's another one where it's hard to pick favorite tracks, but probably two of my faves and ones that have resonated a lot are So Far Away and Will You Love Me Tomorrow. So that's it. Those are some of my faves from this past year, some old, some new. Probably most of them I will continue to listen to into the new year. But I'm looking forward to hearing new releases in the coming months. Maybe some from you, maybe some from friends. But it's a new year and there's going to be a lot of new music, so buckle up.